out of 10. So I have got to select an accolade from him. Here's the story. Here's the story. I'm not going to be long. It's the 4 pillars. We ram it to talk to people about our 4 pillars. First one is macroeconomic stability. Our critics normally say, oh, where's growth? You're talking macroeconomic stability. Macroeconomic stability is a necessary condition. It may not be a sufficient condition for growth, but it is a necessary condition. Because people think that there's this thing, a budget called a panacea, everything, when you table a budget, you're solving all South African problems. Doesn't work that way. So the key, our focus has been on this macroeconomic stability, and we're getting there. Stabilizing debt and so on and so on. We paint the picture deliberately in the budget speech. Deliberately, we paint the picture. We said, how were our finances 5 years ago? Because to understand when we say we've turned the corner, you must understand when we say we've turned the corner, you must understand where. That's the picture we're painting. The second thing we need to do is structural reforms. Now, our critics, again, even on that point, are saying we're neoliberals. But they won't call China neoliberal or Vietnam neoliberal. Those countries have undergone massive structural reforms in order to achieve the growth levels they have today. You know, I was saying last night, I used to call people neoliberals myself. I used to say about Trevor, no, and neoliberal. That people who call others neoliberals have got no responsibility at all. Because I used an example last night. I used to call these people and go into a meeting and talk to and attack them and take them. And I said I used to drink Heineken at the time. And I could take my Heineken and relax. I've got no responsibility. I said, hey, was Shaila National, which means I've dealt with the nationalist. That's my responsibility, no other responsibility. You have got no country which is under threat of, of what you can call debt default. When you sit in my position, when you look at the numbers, you say, oh, should I go allow myself to say an environment where we lose sovereignty by going cap in hand to the IMF? So we've got to make these structural reforms. Structural reforms are also an instrument of growth. We've had an environment where over a decade and a half, trying to fix an institution, ESCOM, not fix power to the grid. Those are two distinct things. And the structural reforms fix power to the grid and also fix ESCOM. I listened to somebody who said, no, we're only interested in not fixing the lights, we're strengthening in reforms. No, we put 254 billion on ESCOM precisely because we wanted to fix the lights, but it's doing structural reforms at the same time. The third area, which I'm glad it was my passion when I came into the department, I had a drawing in my office until they stole it, so that I should forget about it. Always I remind people when they come to my office, you know, this is what I said when I came in August 2021. they decided for me to forget it. They must steal the board. It was not in my office. Infrastructure. I'm glad that that infrastructure has become treasury. My DG is passionate about it. He breathes it, he sleeps it. So, in that sense, infrastructure is a key stimulus to growth. That's what our message we're talking about. The last thing we're talking about, state capacity. We're putting better English. We're not trying to say is in dysfunctionality of certain institutions of the state, including the municipalities. We're saying, no, let's put it nice. As we put those formulations, state capacity. With the team in Operation Volunteer. In essence, if you start just at one level, at municipality level, we've got huge challenges. Huge challenges. If you pay a municipality bill, and I want to just emphasize this point, you get a bill, it has these things, and you pay it, but although you have paid for water, it doesn't mean the money you've paid for water is going to go and maintain water services. I want to use Johannesburg. If my numbers are incorrect, I'll blame somebody who's nameless here from my team who have done this analysis, that in Johannesburg you get this 9 billion rand for water services. But it goes into the whole big pot. What comes out into maintaining water services is only 1 billion rand. 8 billion rand gone. And this, between two, personnel has grown by 82%, personnel expenditure. That's dysfunctionality. That's dysfunctionality. So that's our story. We're trying to sort, that's our story, is those 4 pillars. The DG and the DDGs have said, I must not move out of the script. Whenever I go, I must stuck to the script. So I'm keeping to the script because they normally say, I normally off-ramp. When I'm not talking to the script, I off-ramp. So that is our story. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, for sharing the good story with us. In those words, I'd like to invite the panel, which will be led by my colleague, Prudence, where it will unpack the actual story for all of us to engage. Can someone come and move? I'd like to invite Minister Godongwana to sit in the panel, Deputy Minister David Masondo, Deputy Minister Esho Sarupen, and the DG of National Treasury, Dr. Duncan Peterson. Thanks.
I do.
Why are you not in the panel? I was asking you. Why is she not in the panel?
Good morning. My name is Prudence Gele, and I will be moderating
Is it better this way? Is it fine? Okay. Let's try that one more time. My name is Prudence. Hello? Okay. Yes, it's better now. Okay. Good morning once more. My name is Prudence Cele, and as Ms. Masanda mentioned, I will be moderating the session this morning. I am the Director of Budget Reform in the Budget Office, and I will be taking some questions from yourselves, but I will start off with the first few questions, and I think I'm not going to observe protocol because Cleo has already done that on our behalf, but we do appreciate the opportunity and we acknowledge everyone in attendance. The first question, Minister, that I thought we should start off with is 2025 versus 2026. What steps did the National Treasury take to be able to have a somewhat smoother process arriving at budget 2026?
No, we took a decision. Deputy Sarupen, Deputy Minister Sarupen, Deputy Minister Masonda, that if we stitch a deal amongst the three of us, let's make sure all other political parties follow suit. So, it has been quite an interesting learning curve. I think it's been a learning curve for us, even for the people who were opposing us last year. I think we've learned a number of lessons. I mean, colleagues, some of them were saying, even if we were to do a budget for 3 months and go into spending reviews and then realize savings and make a budget, everybody realized that that's not practical, all right? We also realized that we should have consulted more. Now we've learned that that consultation is key. And I can tell you now, budget is smooth. In front of journalists and Minister Steines, and he comes and says, "You're my star." Hey, I said, things are changing.
Wow.
So it's smooth. It's that political behind-the-scene work between the political parties which is helpful.
Wow, that's amazing. So would you agree, DM Sarpeng, that there was more intentionality in terms of participation and engaging to make the budget a success?
Yeah, well, I mean, even through last year, the Minister and I had extensive meetings, but the politics is what matters, and the broader politics. And so I think this year, the extended process, which the DG has put together, with even before this budget, remember last year in the MTBPS, there was the long run-up to firstly sensitize everyone in the government as to what the actual constraints are, because budgets exist in a set of binding constraints. And once I think people understood the actual fiscal picture, then they understood the path. Yeah.
Wow. So people do understand. So understanding is necessary for us to be able to move forward together. So there was some commentary that was made. We are out of the Financial Action Task Force grey listing. The 16-year move from no credit upgrade, from having a deficit, having a surplus. The first, many firsts in a very long time, right? So if somebody said, what does that mean for the ordinary citizen, dear Masondo, how would you explain that? Are we doing it for markets, or does it matter to the ordinary citizen?
Just to build on the last question, which is related to the second one, what is also different about this year's budget is that we have withdrawn the 20 billion tax increase as opposed to last year. And it also has to do with the fact that we have been responsible in managing our fiscal policy And that has implications on the cost of capital because investors look at your sovereign risk premium to determine the cost of capital. So they look at how we are managing our deficit, primary budget surplus, economic growth, and so on and so on. So, and that matters because with the debt service costs going down in the next 3 years, the debt service costs are going to reduce by 10 billion. And what that does, it opens up space for us to spend money on the needs of the poor, for entrepreneurs who are looking for money. Capital become cheaper, they go and raise money for their own businesses, including Layla in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, because the floor applies by the investors in the listed spaces where they start there. If the yield is high, it means that the cost of capital is also going to be patience for ability to raise money that is necessary for creating jobs and so on and so forth. So all these things are significantly linked to the interests of the poor, and I think the minister has laid it very well around the 4 pillars of our growth strategy, because at the end of the day, it's what impact will this have on the ordinary people in terms of jobs. Without economic growth, you can't have the tax revenue, and it is that tax revenue that enables us to generate, to do the things that we've got to do, education, health, and so on and so on. So this is it's also a redistributive budget. 60% of the expenditure goes to the poor. So we, those who, as the minister was saying, who always accuse us we're austere, we're neoliberal, and all these kind of things, they must look at the facts.
So even though it is about how you are seen globally, it still does have an impact on the ordinary citizen, and we appreciate that. So DG, we introduced the targeted and responsible savings approach to look at inefficiencies last year. And the 12 billion was identified from transport and social development. Is this the new normal? Or are we gonna be now considering looking another direction now that we're seeing that there's that stabilization is approaching somewhere down the horizon?
Thanks, Prudence, and morning, everyone. The Minister made the point in his speech yesterday that targeted and responsible savings is going to be a permanent feature of the budget process. So to remind everyone, we've just tabled the budget and it will go through to Parliament, and eventually, if all goes well, will be assented to by the President. But within the next few months, we will start the process for next year's budget. And we start that process by issuing budget guidelines. And one of the changes we made last year is we took those budget guideline approval before they were published. So you have that buy-in early on in the process. And in those guidelines, we will talk about how we are embedding targeted and responsible savings into the budget process. One of the tools that we've introduced is what we call a program assessment matrix, where each department has to take that matrix, evaluate their own programs against its outcomes. The public finance officials in the National Treasury do the same thing. And then in the technical committees on the budget, we have a discussion about are inefficient, how do we scale them down, how do we cut the wastage, and how do we redirect resources elsewhere within the budget process. So it's a permanent going forward, and it will be embedded in the budget guidelines as well as in the various discussions that take place in the committees.
Just to follow up on that one. So perhaps last year was not so bad for us after all?
Well, I mean, it was certainly painful at the time. But
It ended on a good note.
yes, thank you, Minister.
Yes. Can we give him some? Yeah, so it helped us. And I think even the wins now are just like redemption, right? all their first time things. It was like wiping tears off somebody's face, you know? And I think the good feedback that is being received as well, I think it's encouragement. I will allow for the roaming mic to start moving. Do we have one this side? Yes, we do. Okay. I'll take questions. You can just raise your hand and then you can direct your question. And the colleagues in the room will assist on areas of their expertise for tax, borrowings, and others. So feel free to just ask your question. No questions.
Thank you, Tarius from Business Day. Minute or DG, whoever feels inclined to answer the question, is your confidence on SARS' ability to continue with their increased tax collection? We've done a massive U-turn now, going from absolutely no VAT increase, no increases in tax at all, because of increased tax collection from SARS. But I think the fear amongst many analysts and the public is that that momentum is going to run out, because we really saw SARS ramping up out of nowhere. Are you confident that we are saying no tax increases for the next 2 financial years? You obviously can't give us that detailed of a response, but I think the fear is SARS going to be able to keep this up, and what other contingency measures do we have in place if tax revenue needs to fall?
Okay.
Well, I mean, I was going to ask Chris to come in as well. So while I'm talking, maybe someone can get a mic to him. I think there are a few elements to this question which I'll ask Chris to expand on. The one is, one of the critiques that we've received is that we have inadequately reflected the potential revenue from higher commodity prices in our fiscal framework. So one of the factors we have to keep in mind is that there is a potential for some upside risk, just in terms of economic activity. Having said that, there are 2 elements to, I think, SARS's revenue collection efforts that we're keeping an eye on. The one is the investments that they've made in debt collection efforts, which haven't quite yielded the resources in the current year, but it is quite likely that that will start leading to increased revenue going forward. And so that's an area that we're keeping an eye on. And then just in general, the investments that they are making in improving tax administration certainly bodes well for the future. So we are not concerned at any risks materializing from that point of view. And as the Minister said, for us going forward, because of its negative impact on growth, tax increases are really a measure of last resort. It's not something the Minister can ever take off the table, because it's a function of the budget balances, but it's certainly a point the Minister made yesterday, something that we will consider as a measure of last resort. Chris?
Morning, everyone. So I agree with that. I think there's potential upsides from the commodity price boom, but we could get additional revenue, and it might be even rosier by this time next year. Of course, there are downside risks as well. The geopolitical crisis could continue. There might be shocks to oil prices, anything else. So from a revenue forecasting perspective, we look at both sides, and we hope we're in the middle. I think SARS are doing a great job, and they have done a great job. It's very difficult for them to fall off a cliff now unless something really drastic happens, and we hope that those improvements will continue. There's a big tax gap that's out there. There's an illicit market in tobacco. If you try and do effort to close those down, you can get additional revenue. And we don't have that additional revenue in the numbers either. This keeps going along and even improves a little bit. But even if it's just assuming that we give full tax relief in the next 2 years as forecast. So as long as there's no shock to revenue or big expenditure requirements that we might suddenly need, and it stays along this line and this trajectory, then you get the same level of relief in the next few years. And let's hope that will happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. There's 2 hands that side. Yes, please.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Minister. My name is Kizito Kechuku, Executive Head at 22 on Sloan. Thanks for the relief you gave to small businesses yesterday. That's appreciated. Given that we're not going to make our NDP 2030 jobs target, what are the plans you have in place to be able to create jobs, especially leveraging? Thank you.
I didn't get the last part. You said leveraging jobs and then?
So leveraging small businesses and startups, yeah.
Startups.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give the two gentlemen.
Okay. DM?
Okay, so look, I think on the small business environment, we saw the very big moves yesterday, both on the turnover tax and the VAT registration, which I think will help. But a lot of those businesses sit in the informal economy as well. And so there is decent amounts of allocations in the budget towards small business. We have an entire department of small business, for example. The provinces have allocations as well. There's the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller. Municipalities have their structures as well. And so you do see a large amount of fiscal supports for what is going on in small business. But I think it's more than just what the fiscal support is and what the package is. It is the accelerators, the incubators, and those sorts of things. There is that ecosystem in play. Get more and more people to into the small business space to take advantage of what the state is offering in that ecosystem, because it's quite expansive. But I think the reach is quite important, and obviously that within the broader national treasury is one of those areas where we could get a lot more value for small business and push SMME growth. I mean, one of the interesting things for me is that in the informal economy, our informal sector is considerably smaller than our peer economies. And that is part of the reason why our unemployment rate is so high. And so there's also a lot more to stimulate there as well in terms of municipal red tape regulations and spatial inequality planning that needs to be undone that would see a lot more of that thrive as well.
Thank you, DM, for that. So it takes more than government to be able to create jobs. The enabling environment responsibility, but everyone else will have to come along on the journey to make it possible. Any other questions? I saw one hand inside. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning, ministers. My name is Lebarantu Bakhale, and I do wear many hats. So I am the NEC for EPSIP. However, this question comes as the capacity of co-chairing the global coalition to fight financial crime, and I look after the trade-based money laundering from that end. So my question emanates from there, really, ministers. I mean, I was obviously anticipating from the budget to hear a lot more around trade-based money laundering, but I think Chris has actually alluded to it. But what I'd really like to hear, forward-looking, obviously, to the mutual evaluation that's coming to 2026 or 2027 as well, is what type of inter-agency coordinations are we trying to see, particularly around the trade-based money laundering, because that also affects largely our SARS revenue to this effect. I know it is something that has been touched on in the budget, but I'd like to hear a little bit more on what we're trying to see going forward.
First, go to this SONA, State of the Nation address. President referred to an interagency coordination in this regard. We have not done a detailed in statement in the budget precisely because of that. However, there's a lot of work that's going. Just a week ago, we had a meeting with all the relevant agencies and developing a program of action and what resources that need to be allocated. We make reference to the fact that in the CARA fund, we have made R1 billion available to the police, R1 billion to the army. There are resources that are provided to the BMA. We will be assisting SARS with capacity to be able to working together with these agencies to be able to deal with these things. I called the DG the other day. I went into a garage which shall be nameless for now, as I come into this garage, I looked, they've advertised all the cigarettes. Now, if you look at the tax that were announced per pack of cigarette, which is 23 rand. So, which means it can't be that that camel is produced, to produce that camel and make profit is 3 rand. It can't be. So we need the resources for SARS and this institution to be able to get to these places and deal with this. There's also a track and trace instrument, which is now going to be deployed as well. So there is an interagency work which is being implemented. There's a strategy being developed, which is going to be rolled out soon. Yeah.
You covered. Thank you. Can we go this side? Yes. Okay. Are you pulling?
Yeah.
I was gonna pick on you anyway.
Comes with me. Okay. So my name is Puleng Tatana. I am a youth ambassador for Justice Desk. I am the vice president of Globally Empowered. I won't name all my positions because if we do, then we're going to be here for some time. Okay, so I'm going to ask questions that are concentrated, that are youth concentrated because I am the youth and it looks like I'm the only young person or the youngest person here. Hopefully next time I'll see some other young people. So how does this budget ensure that it is producing financially literate youth while battling youth unemployment at the same time? And this question is directed to my colleague, Minister Godongwana.
I like you.
Okay, Pule. Various aspects of the budget may not necessarily refer to youth, but their effect is impacting on the youth. But one of the things, if you take a step back to what the President was talking about in SONA, is reorganizing the skills system. I make reference to the same point, but not in detail. If I were to try to unpack it a bit, is that the current TVET system produces somebody who's not ready for employment. Let me use as a metal worker, I use the area of work where I am. In metal work, if you are trained as an electrician, it's insufficient to be you having this theoretical knowledge. For you to be a fully fledged electrician, you must be trained practically for at least another 18 months. And you then write a trade certificate and become an electrician. Talking about is how to utilize the skills levy to ensure that all of those young people, for starters, have got the basic skills and the basic qualifications. The second issue is to reorganize the sister system as it is at the moment. The Bureau for Economic Research makes a point, not me, that in fact to train people via SITA is twice the university training per student. Now, that's inefficient use of the resources. So I'm using the skills development area as one area of importance for young people. But obviously, in a whole range of places, including when I'm using the artisan, it does not mean I was talking to the MTN people and Microsoft and all of those people. They want to train young people. All we need to do is just to encourage them to do that and utilize the skills fund to support them to do that in scale. So all these initiatives, even small business, there are young people playing in that space. The problem with, if I may add to DM, with small business is that everybody has got a province, a municipality has got a small business, but there's no coordinated work. It is hoped that we can march separate and hope to strike together. ODM Masondo knows who says that. So all of that need coordination. So that's going to be our focus moving forward, is how to make sure that that coordination takes place with a specific focus on young people. I want us to have, by the time we reach, we should be having a concrete youth story to tell. Can you say I'm looking at the DG, make sure that I'm still in line.
I wanted to just add to the, you said budget literacy or financial literacy?
Both.
Financial literacy. So I wanted to just speak to the budget literacy one to say that there are also efforts from the National Treasury to improve on transparency initiatives. We have an online portal that looks at showing information on budgets graphically for people who can't have documents, who do not understand the language. At least they must see graphically what does it mean when I think about the Department of Basic Education versus the rest of the budget. We also have videos that people can look and explore. A new feature that we've introduced is also on public entities. People don't know that we have more than just the famous ones, you know, your ESCOMs, but it takes a whole lot of more institutions to be able to run the whole country. So please do explore the portal to improve on the budget literacy side, and I do think that there is room for us to improve in terms of capacitating our youth on both end budget literacy.
Can I just add on the financial literacy issue? There are a lot of resources on the financial literacy issues, but again, is the issue of the coordination. The financial sector charter requires, requires that one of the commitments they make in the charter is to have put money aside for financial literacy. That's part of their commitment in the charter, but the problem is, DG, is this issue of coordination, of making sure that. So the resources are there, there's no coordination, and sometimes we don't make impact.
Thank you so much, DG. We have another one.
Good morning, everyone. This is Leanne de Bassompierre from the Africa Report. Minister, yesterday you mentioned that you've got a few meetings coming up with the ratings agencies and investors. So beyond the numbers, what do you believe is the single most market stabilizing elements of this year's speech?
It's above my pay grade. Can I give the DG, because I can give you the political angle. There's a team always after the budget. The team does what is called road shows. They can tell you about, DG is leading that team, we'll talk to that. But there's a broader issue which has been raised by the panel of experts, a report which the expert group we set aside for the G20, that there's an element of bias and in terms of rating agencies. It doesn't mean I agree with the notion that you've got to set up another rating agency in Africa, because we don't have money. The money sits with the group that has got rating agencies. So the point is that there is some element of agencies which is coming up of that report, which needs a reflection as to, you say you can take whether it's India or Portugal. You will see the different fiscal matrices, and so why is the other one treated differently? So, but is my one thing that I'm saying in the room, and I'm sure DG is cringing because he doesn't want me to clash with these people.
Well, Minister, I was going to ask, I don't know where Edgar is, but perhaps he can come in on this point and others.
He was here. He ran away.
Oh, he's no longer here. Okay. Boipuso's there. She can come in on this point.
Thank you. Wipuso, I work at the Treasury. So I think it's an interesting question. What is the single, and I want to make sure I've understood it correctly, what is the single most confidence-inducing message outside of the numbers themselves in the budget? Is that a fair reflection of the question?
Correct.
But I think the single most important thing, or the single most effective way to build confidence to do what you say you're going to do, right? And I think what's useful about this budget is that it comes at a moment where we are able, for the first time in a long time, to talk about not only the things that we intended to do, but to reflect on the things that we've been able to do. Take those lessons and use them to chart a path forward. And I think that's possibly the most critical element of the messaging of this budget. We have for a very long time set ourselves quite ambitious fiscal targets. For some time, they didn't seem it didn't seem quite like we'd be able to achieve them, given what was happening from a global context, given some of the challenges that we were experiencing from a domestic context perspective. But despite that, we are currently hitting some of those targets, and we are also indicating, based on the 4 pillars that the Minister so eloquently reflected on this morning, the direction that we want to go for the South African economy and subsequently also for the fiscus. So I think overall, the single most important message that this budget provides is that we had set ourselves an ambitious path. We're meeting some of those targets. We've got a way to go, but we've got a plan to get there. Thanks.
Thank you, Wipuso. Okay. One more this side and then go back.
Good morning. I'm Julie Kigezi from TechRise, a technology company. I think my question goes to the Minister. We just wanted to find out if there is a tech and digital ecosystem framework. And this is precisely because we have AI with us. And the gap between the skills development and having a lot of our institution adopting the skills that we are developing. There's a huge gap there. And merely because mostly certain departments are not ready the upcoming skills. So do we have a framework that can address that as we engage on multinational companies to keep skilling the young ones and training them, but they end up not having work within the government space?
Do you have a framework?
The National Treasury does not have a framework. Perhaps the applications and digital technologies is better placed to answer the question. But I think it's an important that links to your earlier point about how do we build a skills ecosystem that is better at creating the kind of skills that we need and skilling individuals to be better positioned to join the workforce. And I think you made the point earlier that there's quite a lot of work that needs to be done this year to get us there.
Yeah, I think we must agree that that's a fundamental weakness in an environment. We talk about digital, everybody talks about it, but there's no overarching framework which is coordinating the whole of government. There's an attempt at the moment which is competing Department of Communication and Digital Technologies and the Presidency to try and provide this overarching coordinating work.
Okay. Let's go back this side.
Good morning. I am Matsidi Solengwasa. You can call me TD, and I'm from civil society, so Budget Justice Coalition in Section 27. So I just wanted to ask from a more human rights side and about what this budget means for our communities and the lived experiences of people across our country. Because on the one hand, you know, as a sector of as civil society, we do welcome the above inflation overall increases to areas like education but I worry when I saw the allocations towards social infrastructure around education infrastructure and health infrastructure that there might be, and the basic education employment program, that there might be real-term decreases to that. So I just wanted to ask, like, what the rationale was around that, especially considering that, you know, across communities in our country, there are people who are braving, you know, dilapidated infrastructure, clinics that are falling apart, classrooms that are overcrowded, and our view is, of course, that the budget is a really good tool, a fiscal tool to better position the state to rebuild our communities. So just wanted to get a sense of National Treasury's thinking and rationale around that. Thank you.
But you start on the assumptions that there's a decrease.
Yeah. In real terms?
No, on infrastructure.
Okay.
You start on the assumption that there's a decrease, and you don't say what number to which number. And that assumption is inaccurate. Let's start there first. The second point, posing that question, is what we're correctly putting at an infrastructure side. Well, I even make a statement calling on all the department to submit their projects on the social infrastructure. We list a number of departments there, including, for instance, at the university level, student accommodation, new university infrastructure, TVETs, where all of that is in the infrastructure section.
I would add, Minister, sorry, were you?
Yeah.
I would just add, I mean, infrastructure budgets are growing by almost 10% per year. And the way we've positioned the budget is to say that to the extent that there are sectors and departments that have priority investments, infrastructure investments required in health, education, and other, the mechanism that we've created for that, which is the budget facility infrastructure, is available to support that. And it used to have one opportunity for departments to submit proposals. It now has 4 opportunities per year. And we've created a team at the DBSA that helps departments and entities package their projects. And we've underpinned the budget facility for infrastructure with an infrastructure bond that allows us to raise the finances to support those projects. So the opportunities for us to fund those projects are certainly there. It's now up to departments and entities to take advantage of that opportunity. The other point I would make is that there are 2 very large investments that are announced as part of this budget, which is very important for the communities that you talk about. The one is the massive investments that we are making in commuter rail. In the order of 20 billion rand is being directed for investments in signalling infrastructure, the rolling stock program, and the operations budgets of PRASA, which is going to be very important to address the point that the DM made earlier about spatial inequality and the cost of transport for working families. And we'll be watching PRASA very closely over the next few years to ensure that they can deliver on the investment that's been allocated there. The other point is on early childhood development. This budget contains in excess of 10 billion rand over the next few years of investments in
12.8.
12.8. You see, the minister remembers the numbers better than I do. 12.8 billion in order to have more ECD centers, to allow more children to benefit from ECD opportunities as the bedrock of the education system. So I think the orientation of this budget, both in terms of the opportunity it provides for infrastructure, as well as the investments that it makes in vulnerable, continues to be a very important way in which we are ensuring that we meet our fiscal targets, but calibrate the budget in the right way.
Can I just add, DJ? Yeah, I remember a number now. 74 billion rand of this budget in provinces is for this social infrastructure. In province alone, it's 74 billion rand that goes to this social infrastructure you're talking about. So what we are talking about in the budget facility for interact is an add-on top of that 74 billion rand which goes into this program. So from an infrastructure perspective, the issue the two of us must look at is there money going to be spent efficiently? Because sometimes we look at the number, we don't look at the ability to spend it effectively. One of the things we're also trying to do, we used to have in school, for instance, a provincial grant and a national grant, and someone like in Mount Pleasure, one builds a school this side of the road, and another national department build the schools this side of the road because there's no coordination. We're trying to improve that. So it's not a resource issue.
I think, Matsidi, so you can agree the issue is not the money, but I wanted to just draw attention to the fact that in probably the sectors you're concerned about, that there are conditional grants as well that are there. So I don't know if, Okhali, you'd like to say something about that, because the conditions determine what happens post building that, to whether or not you have access to that grant. What are the keep? So there's other factors besides the lump sum of money that has been mentioned, the BFI and everything. These are long-standing programs that have been there in health and in education, have maintenance grants as well. So what are the issues there, inefficiencies there that can be considered, that perhaps the problem is not what was allocated before. The question should be, why is it not there? So I think you should consider that as well. Okhali? Would you like to add?
Good morning.
I just wanted her to add if she wants to say something on this issue, and then we can have you take your question. I'm sorry about that. Can you give her the mic?
Good morning. My name is Okhali from National Treasury. Just to indicate that even with regards to that grant, so what normally happens is that the department itself have plans. So they'll list all the schools they want to do. It's also look at the budget books of provinces. As you know, within 2 weeks' time from Monday, all provinces need to table their own budgets. So in those chapters for education, they'll have there's a table called B5 where it will indicate which schools has the Department of Education plan for that year. Same will apply to the health as well, because they benefit from the conditional grants that Prudence spoke about. Thank you.
Thank you, Okhali. We'll take one more question here, and then I'll have to start rounding up soon. So one more.
Good morning, Minister. Good morning, Deputy Ministers and DG and everybody who's here. My name is Dante Mashile. I'm the Head of Investments in the Office of the Premier, KwaZulu-Natal. Just to give a word of endorsement that this budget, from an infrastructure point of view, gave us quite a baseline for confidence to say that we're taking it seriously, and so far to see that the social infrastructure is actually intact. Coming from a province that has been ravaged by floods and all kinds of crises, we have taken notice that capacity from a project management point of view on infrastructure investment is a weakness. And one of the areas that we've identified is to work closely with Infrastructure SA to be able to build capacity from a project delivery point of view, especially in your large infrastructure projects. And I agree with the minister, lack of resources. It's about how we deploy funds to be able to actively implement projects that are going to give this economy, especially a provincial economy like KZN, the momentum it requires to actually grow at a larger rate of growth than what we see now. And I might add as well that for far too long we've been talking about we want the growth rate of 4%, 3%, etc. until we solve the issues from a social infrastructure point of view, the productive economy will not be able to actually carry that alone. We need to, as articulated in the budget, to see that we implement stuff that are from a social economic perspective to give the kind of space and momentum for the productive economy as anchored in the budget. And just to say, a very great budget giving us hope and also a baseline on which to work with and actually implement for the sake of citizens of this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for the compliment as well. We have DM Mapaseka in the room from the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. I'm going to give you an opportunity to just say a few words as well. If you can hand her the mic.
No, thank you so much.
My apologies for whatever sitting next to you, I forgot.
No, that's okay, Minister. No, let me appreciate this moment and also appreciate all the guests that are here. Minister, first, we'll congratulate, the delivery of the budget, 2014 budget that we continue to observe. And I think, it highlights quite a number of things that even for us in the presidency that is responsible for women, youth, and persons with disability, there are quite a number of things that we pay special attention on. And you see, I think for us, when you look at it, you highlight specifically so what are the gender priorities, what are the youth priorities, and the inclusion or the intention even was of leaving no one behind. And I think that's the most critical thing. And I want to give comfort to colleagues who are in the room that this is some of the attention to detail that we do collectively as an administration. But also I think what is alive and real around the budget itself, it's setting out, the gaps and looking at ways on how to address that. Predominantly so informed by the trends, but also course-correcting, the inequalities that exist. And that on its own you see through the landscape of gender budgeting. And use that gender budgeting as used as a lens to inform the evidence, the capacity, and the role of, specific women, youth participation, and including the persons with disability. And colleagues will also remember that, a few years ago, President made a pronouncement around, active participation of women, youth, and persons with disability, particularly when it relates to even the procurement policies, and there are set targets. So what we do, even in that kind of budget and all departments, there are set targets, and that is quite important that those set targets are met. But I think at the heart of this, it's really around what we do around our knowledge and the evidence that draws us into our national development plan and how it's integrated within the midterm development plan. It's really around the empowerment aspect, looking at the capacity, looking at aspect of the key enablers as part of our business case around gender response and youth response. But you have to also do it from that human endowment aspect. And that on its own informs our active participation to this. So I think we have a good, healthy a budget that moves us forward, and we have to be disciplined around it. But ultimately, it's really ensuring that women actively participate, youth participate, and persons with disability are included. So we really appreciate this moment and this engagement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, GM. So this year we published the second gender budget statement in efforts to just have a gender lens in the budget. So we've added economic empowerment before and human endowment on request by the committee in Parliament to say that you're just looking at economic empowerment, but you're not looking at the social aspect. And so we added some departments there. It's still at pilot phase, but we progressively move direction. I think it will take all of government to be able to incorporate into their policies, their programs, intention on how do you close those gaps, but they must also know what the gaps are. We found that even when you're trying to roll out the program and the pilot, the lack of understanding about what the role of particular sectors is and how they fit in is not quite clear. So we believe that progressively we'll be able to reach that point. Thank you so much, DM. So colleagues, our time is actually over if you check the program. So I know somebody's hand was up there and I feel so bad because I did cut you. So we'll take one last person and then we'll be able to round up. Yes, the gentleman there at the back with the DDG Orica.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kwesi Jackson, so at 22 on Stone, so representing small, medium, and micro businesses. I think I want to preface this question by saying that as we sit here today, there are entrepreneurs out there who are trying to find ways to spend money before the tax year end. Because it's better to get rid of it that way rather than paying the tax, the 27% tax on it. And though I appreciate the adjustments made in the small business corporation tax, the turnover tax tables, the default tax rate for businesses is the 27%. And entrepreneurs have to go, I think, find tax specialists and assistants in order to qualify or be registered for the small business corporation tax tables or the turnover tax. So is it not time to then change the default for small, medium enterprises from the company's 27% tax rate to, then the other two tax tables more favorable to them, and just in order to grow this economy and encourage businesses to keep money within their businesses instead of trying to go and find expenses that they don't really need. Thank you.
Chris, are you able to assist? Can you give it to Chris? The other corner, yes.
No, thanks very much. I mean, I think, look, we are trying to help small businesses here. I mean, that VAT registration threshold increase, we've seen small businesses trying not to go above $1 million because they don't want to start registering for VAT. Now they've got a lot more space to get up to 2.3 million. The turnover tax table is really there to try and help small businesses by just saying, you don't have to worry about spending on anything because it'll be a 3% flat tax rate regardless. You don't have to, there are no deductions. You just look at the turnover and it's 3%. So it gets rid of that incentive to try and spend before the end of the tax year. And there we've also gone up to 2.3 million. I mean, I think the other point about small businesses and the 27% is a general one. And is the 27% competitive? And we've seen lots of other countries trying to reduce that 27% to get more investment, to get more business going. We've got a much lower rate in the special economic zones that we've got. But does it need to be wider? Do we need to think about small businesses? I mean, that's what we'll take away from this. We've tried to help in this budget, but we'll keep reviewing it. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. DM Masondo, any parting shots from your end?
We'll keep doing the good work.
Yeah. Yes, we will keep doing the good work as well, but I think we've got more to look forward to in MTBPS now.
No, I'm allocating my 10 seconds
okay.
to the minister.
All right, Mas. Over to you, Minister.
I was going to allocate my 10 minutes to No, I mean, it's nice that you have had us giving us this opportunity to talk to South Africans about this budget. And we hope we'll continue to engage with South Africans for a better understanding of what this budget is about. What is this budget about? And I'm happy that a number of people have given, it's a thumbs up. We're happy with that. We'll continue with the good work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause, please. Mine is just to thank you all for your participation, your questions, and just being here and really encouraging us as we continue doing the work. And I hope that this will be a good start to the turning debt stabilization curve. And then we will reach the actual bottom that was projected at the end. I'm now going to ask for Zama and Advocate Mahlati and the DDGs and the National Treasury to come for a picture moment. And Puleng, please, because she needs to mark this moment. Yeah, and the DM. Please, if you can all stand here on the stage and you'll take the picture. Yeah, you can take it off now. You can take it off. You can take off the mic. I'm going to clever. Yes, please unmic them. Advocate Mahlati Mamzama, the DDGs. Yes, Chris, Oreka, Buipuso, I know your names. They're not coming. Edgar, please do come for a picture moment.
You need to be in the picture, so I will hold. No, it's not. We're not finished yet. We're just taking the picture moment. We're just taking the picture moment. We're still continuing with our program. It has not ended. We wanted to make sure Puleng has a picture with her colleagues. These are your colleagues. Join, please, yes. Puleng can't be alone. The learner without the teacher. Wow. Is the picture okay? Okay, let's go. Smile. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone. Well, we have not ended our program.
Helena is so short.
You're going to get from giving. We have not ended our program. Allow me to take the opportunity to thank our moderator, Ms. Prudence Cele, for engaging us, and the Honorable Minister and the panel for unpacking the budget for all of us to understand its economic and its social impact. Without a waste of time, I'm now going to invite Advocate Mahlati, who is going to do the vote of thanks for us.
Thank you. Finance, Mr. Enoch Godongwana, Deputy Ministers, Dr. David Masondo and Mr. Asher Sarupen, Deputy Minister in the Presidency for Youth, Women, Persons with Disability, Ms. Mapaseka Steve Letsike, Tax Ombudsman, Ms. Yanga, Directors Generals present, distinguished guests, colleagues. It gives us, from Brand SA, an incredible pleasure to say thank you for being with us this morning. And I've got a very, very small task, and the task is to give the closing remarks. I am going to confine myself to what the minister said. He said that this budget 2026 was based on 4 pillars. The first one was the stabilization of the macroeconomic condition. He said that the stabilization of debt, which we believe has been ongoing for the past 16 years, has finally stabilized, and that we have exited from the gray list of FATF. And I believe that these 2 achievements are incredibly great, and they augur well for our economic growth. The second pillar that he mentioned was the structural reform. He said structural reform is a necessary condition. Can you take this? Thank you. Is a necessary condition for a growth and development. The other third pillar of this budget is infrastructure. And indeed, the discussions in here this morning reflected on how important this reform in our economy is. It says that the infrastructure reform and the budget that has been attached to it is now embedded in the Treasury Planning Forum, which means that they have provided sufficient funding so that the necessary infrastructural reforms can be carried out. And the carrying out of this infrastructural reform is again a precondition for growth. Without this infrastructural reform, it will not, our growth or the growth stimulus will not occur. And the fourth and lasting pillar that he spoke of, which I think is so important, is that one that he described as capacitating of the state. And I think that it was great that he refrained from describing it in the other negative way. I believe that it is therefore important that in our government, with the direction of the Treasury, we really, really make sure that the state is capacitated, not only at national government, but more importantly, and I think more fundamentally, at municipal level, which is where a lot of the delivery is performed. So without much further ado, us here, the department, Treasury, partners, and everyone today. Oh, I must also mention the fact that having scanned the media this morning, this budget 2026 has been really received positively, that there are less naysayers than there have been in a long time. And it is therefore important for us as we move here to go ahead and say and speak the good story. It is important for investor confidence that as South Africans, we are in support of the policy interventions that are intended to stimulate our economic growth. And that after 16 years, this is something really to be celebrated, that the stabilization of debt. And I invite you all for breakfast. Thank you.
Act, because the Police Service Act made it clear. That was the 1996 Police Service Act, which was amended following the version 2, if you like, of the Constitution, which is the current Constitution that we have today. Made it clear that no serving member of the police